The Zephyrian Council had ruled the Andromeda sector for 3 millennia, their crystalline cities floating serenely above gas-giant atmospheres, their people living in perpetual light. They had evolved on a world with twin suns, where darkness was nothing more than a brief twilight between the setting of one star and the rising of another. To them, shadows were aberrations, and the deep black of space was a void to be avoided at all costs. Commander Veltar pressed his 6-fingered hand against the observation deck's luminescent wall, watching the endless expanse of stars through his ship's reinforced viewing portal. The Lightbringer was the most advanced vessel in the Zephyrian fleet, equipped with solar collectors that could harness energy from distant stars and emit a brilliant aura that extended for kilometers in every direction. "Status report," Veltar commanded, his voice carrying the melodic quality typical of his species. "All systems nominal, Commander," replied his navigation officer, Kasara. Her bioluminescent patches flickered nervously along her neck, a sign of anxiety among their kind. "However, our deep space sensors are detecting anomalies in Sector 7. Veltar's own light patterns dimmed slightly. Sector 7 was what they called the Dark Zone, a region of space where stars were sparse and the void seemed to swallow their probe ships whole. For centuries, they had lost vessels there, always the same way. Complete radio silence, then nothing. The few automated distress beacons they'd recovered told impossible stories of creatures that moved through absolute darkness. Beings that seemed to thrive in the very environment that terrified the Zephyrians most. "What kind of anomalies?" he asked, though part of him already knew. "Energy signatures, sir, but not like anything in our databases. They're cold. Almost anti-light, if such a thing were possible." The bridge fell silent except for the gentle hum of their light generators. Every Zephyrian aboard knew the legends, stories of shadow dwellers who could extinguish stars with their mere presence, monsters that fed on illumination itself. Their ancestors had fled from such tales, always moving toward brighter systems, always seeking the comfort of eternal day. "Sir," the communications officer interrupted, "we're receiving a transmission from the outer perimeter. It's not in any language we recognize." The message crackled through their speakers, harsh, guttural sounds that seemed to absorb the light around the communication console. Veltar felt his people's collective fear as their bioluminescence flickered in unison. "Translate it," he ordered. The ship's AI worked for several minutes before responding. "Commander, the linguistic patterns are extremely complex. However, I believe the message roughly translates to, 'We see you, children of light. Do not fear. We come in peace.'" Before Veltar could respond, the ship's sensors went wild. Something massive was approaching, something that didn't reflect their light but seemed to absorb it entirely. On the main display, a shape emerged. From the darkness, angular, metallic, and impossibly black. It was larger than their flagship, yet it moved with a grace that defied its size. "Raise shields," Veltar commanded. But even as he spoke, he realized their energy barriers were useless against something that consumed light itself. The alien vessel came to rest beside them, and then something unprecedented happened. A section of their hull began to glow. Not with the harsh artificial light the Zephyrians produced, but with a warm, steady illumination that seemed almost gentle. "Commander," Kasara whispered, her voice filled with awe. "They're matching our frequency. They're making light for us." A new voice came through the communications array, clearer this time, speaking in accented but understandable Zephyrian. "Greetings, people of the light. I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran exploration vessel Nocturne. We've been tracking your ships through this region and noticed you seem to be having difficulties with what you call the Dark Zone." Veltar's mind reeled. These creatures, these humans, they lived in the darkness by choice. They had built their civilization in the void between stars, and yet they spoke of peace. You're the shadow dwellers," he managed to say. "The monsters our people have feared for generations." A sound came through the comm system that took the AI several seconds to identify. Laughter. "Monsters? I suppose that depends on your perspective, Commander. We're just explorers like you. Though I admit we do prefer the quiet of deep space." to the glare of stellar neighborhoods. Over the next several hours, Captain Chen patiently explained humanity's expansion into the universe, how they had evolved on a world of cycles, light and dark, day and night, and had learned to navigate by stars rather than flee from the spaces between them. How they had developed technology that functioned in absolute zero, ships that could travel for months through empty void, and a culture that found beauty in the subtle dance of distant galaxies. Your people have been losing ships, Chen explained, because they panic in the dark. Their light signatures attract every predator in the sector, things that really are dangerous. But more than that, your vessels burn out their power supplies, trying to illuminate the void. We've been rescuing your crews when we can, taking them to the edge of your territory. Veltar felt something shift in his understanding of the universe. You've been protecting us? The darkness isn't your enemy, Commander. It's just different from what you're used to. We'd like to show you how to navigate it safely, if you're willing to learn. As the Nocturne began to demonstrate their cloaking technology, not hiding from light but learning to move with the natural shadows of space, Veltar realized that his people had been wrong about everything. The monsters they had feared were guardians. The darkness they had fled from was simply another kind of home. In the weeks that followed, human engineers worked alongside Zephyrian technicians to develop hybrid navigation systems. They learned that the vast emptiness between stars wasn't a void to be feared, but a highway to be traveled. The humans taught them to read the subtle gravitational signatures of distant objects, to use cosmic background radiation as a guide, and to appreciate the profound beauty of a universe that contained both blazing suns and peaceful darkness. The first joint human-Zephyrian expedition into the deep dark was a revelation. Where the Zephyrians saw terrifying emptiness, the humans pointed out nebulae invisible to their light-adapted eyes, ancient stellar graveyards that told stories of cosmic evolution, and navigation routes that could cut travel times between sectors by half. We spent millennia fearing the dark, Veltar confided to Captain Chen as they stood together on the observation deck of their new joint vessel. We never realized we were fearing half of creation itself. Chen smiled, her form barely visible in the soft red lighting they had agreed upon as a compromise between species. Darkness isn't the absence of good, Commander. It's just the presence of something different. Sometimes the most beautiful things can only be seen when the harsh lights go out. As their combined fleet moved deeper into regions no Zephyrian had ever explored, Veltar understood that his people hadn't encountered monsters in the dark. They had found teachers. Humanity hadn't conquered the darkness. They had made peace with it, learned its rhythms, and discovered that even in the deepest void, there was always light to be found. The universe, he realized, was vast enough for all kinds of beings, those who loved the light and those who called the darkness home.